from America Waves. And then a lot of these fun activations we have around our sporting partners, like the coin toss coin from the NFL playoffs and things like that. Those items too, celebratory items, will be chosen to be installed within the time capsule. So that the selecting of those items is ongoing right now. And then again, ensuring that this thing is going to last 250 years underground. This is something that's not been done that we know of. We've unburied some time capsules that are more than 200 years old, and the contents haven't fared very well. So how do we ensure that those contents survive 250 years? And that's where Jacob and his team at NIST come in, and he's going to share a little bit about the design elements of the vessel itself. Jacob.
Thank you. Yeah, so 250 years is a really long time. I mean, when we unbury things from 250 years, you know, a lot of times they're completely degraded. And so, you know, this is a very hard task. And even when it comes to, you know, our best materials that are out there, you know, stainless steels have only been around less than 100 years, or they've been around about 100 years. The stainless steels we're using nowadays are slightly less than that. So, you know, material choice overall is just very hard. Next slide, please. So we have to design a time capsule that can hold lots of materials. So here you can see a cutaway of our time capsule. You can see it is about 36 inches tall and 24 inches in diameter. We have several shelves. There are shelves that are for holding different materials. So those will be stored on multiple shelves. And then there is a special inner time capsule, which will be used for archival paper, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a later slide. So the way we're planning to go about survivability, so the biggest risk to a time capsule is water. So we have to keep the water off of our time capsule. And the way we designed it is with an outer shell. So we have, as I mentioned, there's inner chambers and outer chambers. So we actually have 3 layers of protection on this time capsule. The outermost layer is a big metal. It's made out of 316L, which is a special type of stainless steel. And it covers the entire time capsule and protects it in kind of like an air bubble. And this is similar if you've ever been in a swimming pool and you take a bucket, you turn it upside down and you pull it down into the water, it traps an air bubble in the bucket. That's exactly what we're doing here. So we're using the physics of that air pressure to maintain an air bubble surrounding our time capsule at all times. So the time capsule is mounted on a block which raises the time capsule up and keeps it in this air bubble. And then we have our inner chamber, which I showed on the last slide. And then next slide, please. On the innermost, there's a 16-inch diameter chamber, and this is just for archival paper documents. So these are for our most precious items and things we want to preserve for, you know, that we want to preserve definitely for the 250 years.
Thanks, Jacob. Let's go back up if we can, just a couple of slides. I just want to talk briefly as what you're looking at here. The purple pink boxes are individual archival boxes that have been assigned to each state. So one of the things that I'm sure keeping me up and probably Rosie too is what if we get to the point in June where we don't have space for everything? We can't have more things than can fit in the time capsule. So we've given each of the states and territories a 5x6 by 2-inch tall archival box. And they were given kind of a prescribed list of content materials to choose from because we can't have things that will be off-gassing, for example, and affecting other things within the capsule. The chemical makeup of the items that go in here over 250 years have to be stable enough to not impact the others. And so that's why you see also this separate, smaller metal vessel for the paper, because that is particularly fragile and susceptible to degradation. And we don't want any of the other elements in the time capsule affecting archival paper that's coming from heads of state and in states and territories and things like that. And then the green boxes will be elements of the commission's materials itself. So there's space in here for each of those entities, very kind of thoughtfully measured out. And that also informed the size and scale of the design itself. So there's so many different complicating elements in here, and we're so grateful to Jacob and the team at NIST for their, again, if you could just sit in the room and listen to these people think about how this is going to work, and then talk to the Library of Congress about the contents and how those things are going to interact with each other over 250 years in a sealed environment. It's truly, truly a fascinating process, and certainly many more questions about that we can answer as part of the Q&A and in the days ahead. So go ahead and roll back to the schedule if you would, Emily. So actually, one before this, March 15th is when the states and territories have their ideas due to us electronically to send us what they want to put in the capsule so that we can vet the size, we can vet the material. And then we're also creating replicas of the time capsule that the public can see. So we have a White House Visitor Center display that's happening. That's going to be the entire commission programming. And an element of that will be a replica of the time capsule where there will be a plexi front on it and people can see inside the archival boxes. And they can then write a note on that exhibit to the people of the future. What would you say to citizens in 250 years, and drop that in the box? And a select number of those messages will be chosen and put in the actual time capsule. So that's going to be happening on April 1st, and we'll also have a replica on display in Philadelphia at the Liberty Bell Center as well later this spring. And then May and June, we will unveil the contents. And we'll be photo documenting those contents, and we'll unveil the contents and load them into the capsule at a ceremony at NIST in June. And then it will begin its brief journey up to Philadelphia, where it will go on display in the Liberty Bell Center, the actual capsule, before being put in the ground, likely on the morning of July 4th at Independence Mall. So that's roughly the schedule of events surrounding the capsule going forward. So, in closing, I guess for me before Q&A, and I'll turn it back over to Rosie here in a second, again, as somebody who still collects bicentennial coins, as somebody who's been working on this since the founding of the commission, this idea of a message in a bottle to people 250 years into the future is almost incomprehensible. You think about opening something today that might have been put in the ground 250 years ago, and who would have been putting things in there, who they were from, what those messages might have been. Unfortunately, the time capsules that we've had since that era haven't survived well, so we don't have a lot of unburied material. But I just think about those people peeling it off, and hopefully they don't know everything that's in there. And there's some incredible surprises and some beautiful messages that are part of this time capsule, to the future. So incredibly proud and excited to work on this along with this team. Grateful for Rosie and the team's leadership on it. And I'll turn it to Rosie for some remarks, and then we'll open it up, I think, for Q&A.
Well, again, we're just thrilled about the progress we've been making as a commission. Again, 8 years and counting, and I hope you've been as excited as we have been to see all the great activity that's been happening as we roll out 2026, whether it was what we launched in Times Square on December 31st. The next day there I was at the Rose Parade, literally 7 hours later, where we won for Best Non-Commercial Float. And then, of course, we had launched our partnership with the NFL. You probably, of course, couldn't miss what happened at the Super Bowl. And there are so many other activities to be launched. What I didn't mention are some other projects like America Soundtrack, which is our multi-volume playlist of anthems that'll be coming out very, very shortly, along with other surprises around the corner. I wish I could tell you more, but there will definitely be more to come. And again, the fact that you're so interested in this particular project means everything to us, because obviously it is a very big priority for Congress. And we have been, again, just making great progress along the way. And we honestly believe that this is going to be the way to engage all 350 million Americans on this global platform of unity that we've never seen before.
Thank you so much, Tom, Rosie, and Jacob. We can transition into Q&A. First question, I think maybe for Tom. This one is a good one for you. How will the people of the future know where the time capsule is located and be able to unbury it?
Yeah, thanks. Because who knows, right? Landscape wise, we certainly hope that Independence Hall is preserved by the National Park Service for another 250 years. We can expect that it will be, that the Liberty Bell will still be there. And so it'll be placed into the management documents for the National Park Service. So they will take ownership of the capsule after it's buried. And as part of the management documents of Independence National Historical Park, they will identify this for future generations of leaders of the park. And so, and of course, it will also be archived with commission materials within the National Archives Library of Congress. So there'll be a number of places where the exact location and contents will be identified and tracked over the course of centuries to come.
That's great. And can you talk a little bit more about the decision for the contents that represent the commission's work to reflect the tentpole programming? Maybe Rosie, this is a good one for you.
Yeah, so as Tom mentioned earlier, we already have rolled out a number of signature programs a couple of years now. And so certainly, if you come to our America250 offices, you will see a lot of the artwork from America's Field Trip that's all around our office. We would like to think that there could be an opportunity for our current round of America's Field Trip, which are due, again, those submissions are due on March 30th. Maybe this is a way to inspire that student from grades 3 through 12 who might be able to submit a piece of art that we can actually include in the time capsule. That would be amazing. And then certainly, again, as we think about America Startup, that also includes a one-page proposal and a 2-minute video. So it could very well be that one of those written proposals are also going to be included in this time capsule. And as we thought about our programming, you will see that it's very values based. There's no ideology one way or the other. There's no political agenda here whatsoever. That was a very concerted decision that this commission made when I became chair 3.5 years ago, is to say that we want to make sure that there's as many options as possible for all Americans. We can't be all things to all Americans, but we definitely have something for every American. And everything has resonated so well. I would say, even what we're doing with America Gives, when we have that final number of recorded volunteer hours for 2026, that we hope, is it going to be 5 million? Is it going to be 5 billion? We don't know what that's going to look like, but certainly whatever that number is, we can certainly, again, include what that process looked like as part of this time capsule, and maybe highlight some of those great partners who helped along the way. So again, I see this as a culmination. I think the time capsule is going to be very representative of the work that's been done to date. Even though it is going to be sealed before our moments of July 4th, we can certainly take some opportunities to put some items in there that reflect what happened on July 4th. Maybe there's some surprise pieces from the ball drop on July 3rd that we can think about. Again, I think the sky's the limit. And this is certainly a conversation that we as a commission have been having for quite some time. And the fact that we've been able to have this unanimous process for our programming leads me to believe that how this time capsule is going to reflect both that process and those elements of the programming is going to be very, very important. And we know this is resonating. We know it's working. We know this is what Congress wants. Congress is on board with us in terms of their support as a caucus and as members of our commission as well. They've been extremely helpful and thoughtful every step of the way. So we've been very, very fortunate to have kind of the right composition, the right thought process, the right strategic vision to make this for every American out there.
Great, thank you. Jacob, this is a good question for you. You had talked about some other time capsules not preserving well over time. Can you talk about any other capsules that you may be aware of that have been opened recently or that have been constructed over time, and how you took learnings from those to apply to this project?
Yeah, so a lot of time capsules, are square in shape, and anytime you have a corner, right, that's where it's going to fail. So, that's why, we really chose the round design. Additionally, we took a lot of experience from, vacuum chambers. So, the US has a lot of experience with high vacuum chambers. We designed these chambers that are all ultra sealed from preventing air or anything in. And we took a lot of learning from that as well. And then, when it really comes down to time capsules, like I said, water is the enemy. If you look at the time capsules that work, almost always they're in a cornerstone or something like that that's in a building, secured. But this one is going in the ground. And so we kind of had to, design around that and to to figure out the best way to make it survivable for 250 years.
And one of the most instructive recent examples was from West Point. They discovered a time capsule in the base of a Thaddeus Kosciuszko monument there last year, and it was 200 years old, and it was largely filled with silt. There were a few coins that survived, medallions, but whatever else was in there, there's no record of it. That was another example of the box structure that Jacob talked about, and the water infiltration and dirt and silt infiltration destroyed whatever else was in there. So that's a recent example of one that I think we can take some instruction from also.
Great. We have two questions related to the state and territory contributions. So the first one is, what are some of the objects you expect states to include in their time capsule space? And then on a related note, beyond materials, issue, and size, what kind of content guidelines are the states and territories given? Tom, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, we've gotten a few questions from states. I don't know if I need to out any states. I will out Hawaii. So we had told the states they could have a one piece of paper that would go in the inner vessel, and whatever they want that to be, a poem or a piece of artwork or a letter from a governor or whatever that might be, and then something to fit in their box. So they came back with they would like to have, if they have a letter from the governor or another leader in the state, they would like to have it translated into Native Hawaiian. That's not going to fit on one page. Can we please have some more pages? And so it was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let's make sure that the Hawaiian, language is represented here. And if you know that alphabet and that language, it's expansive. So that was an interesting question from there. We've had questions about pewter as a metal going in there from one of the states, if their object could be of pewter, and gold and some of the other elements. So we've been getting some questions like that, but we won't know much until after the March 15 deadline, when we should have an idea from every state and territory. And so it's been their commissions. Rosie referenced earlier that we've been successful in getting every one of them to stand up a 250 commission of their own. And so they are the ones who were tasked with this. Some of them are taking it on directly. Some of it have passed it into the governor's office or something else. Some of them are doing public campaigns, social media campaigns, asking their citizens what it should be, maybe doing a contest. So each one of them is going to do it somewhat differently. And that's part of the beauty of it. There is no prescription for that. We just really tried to prescribe paper, non-reactive metals, certain types of ink and things like that, materials that are going to last for 250 years in an enclosed environment and not impact the other materials in that environment as well. So those were the only real strict guidelines we handed out.
That's great. And Tom and Rosie, maybe a combined question for you. That's great to hear that some of the states are asking their constituents for ideas and suggestions for their contributions. Can you talk about, between you and Rosie, the thought process on maybe not opening that up to the public for the America 250 contributions, and the balance between the scientific aspect of this and being sure that we're being representative of the country at this moment in time?
Yeah, let me start. So we were very intentional about making sure that we empowered the states. We basically set the table for all to come and make sure that we weren't very prescriptive about their own narrative. It was very, very important for them to own their narrative. If you think about who we were as a country in 1776, we are a nation of nations. If you think about Alaska was Russia and Hawaii was its own kingdom, and California was Spain, Mexico, and of course Texas at one point had 6 different flags flying over it. We doubled our footprint with the Louisiana Purchase with France. So to have the states, to give the states the ability to really again own their story, own their history, and work very closely with their representatives at the state commission level and the governors. I can't tell you how grateful we are about how engaged the governors have been. I had a chance to address the National Governors Association in 2024, 2025, and I just did it again this last conference in DC. And they are so excited about this because again, there has to be something for everyone. And we have so many different interests at the state level, so many different stories, so many different narratives, so much history behind all of them, that we want to make sure that our goal is to make sure that we provide kind of the structural integrity, if you will, with our programming, and have them give them the ability to participate in our programming, or even as we think about their own programming, how can we help elevate and amplify that? So we've had, for example, these state and territory convenings every year with representatives from all 56 parts of the country come in, share ideas, have these peer-to-peer relationships, and again, provide resources to them in terms of how can they think about, again, either participating in our programming or supporting their programming. So for us, again, it has to be community driven. It has to be grassroots. It has to be, again, something for everyone. And so Tom has been very, very good about working at that level, both with the state and territory commissions. And again, having the governors involved has been very, very helpful, along with the mayors, by the way. Our mayors, we have 4 priority cities identified in our enabling legislation that include Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and Charleston, South Carolina. And so making sure, again, that those areas are also well represented in our programming and in our processes is very important to us.
Yeah, I just echo that. Rosie has created a small but effective team for A250, but we need force multipliers to reach all those 350 million Americans. And so the state and territory commissions are the way that we do that. And we then can focus on the 3 branches of government to get elements for the capsule, our programming to get elements for the capsule, but we have to rely on the states and territories to engage the rest of the country. And so it appears as though that's going to be, pretty successful, and we're very happy with that model.
Great. We have a couple of questions related to just the events around the burial, July 4th, and then as it relates to, if this relates to the potential special convening of Congress on July 2nd in Philadelphia. I will let the group know that we are still in the process of filing plans for the whole July 4th surrounding days, but in particular July 2nd and July 4th. So we will be in touch with more specifics on media opportunities, filming opportunities, and interviews as it gets closer to. But Tom, do you mind speaking a little bit about the plans to have the capsule on display on July 2nd and then the burial on July 4th? As much as you're able to share for now.
Yeah, no, the National Park Service has been really, really generous with their time and support, and offering space within the Liberty Bell Center, for example, for the capsule to be on public display in the weeks leading up to July 2 through 4. The Philly's big celebration, one of them is on July 2. They have something called the Red, White, and Blue To-Do, which is a big day-long festival in Philadelphia that culminates on the Independence Mall with a stage, military band, a big picnic, and things like that. So that July 2 will be an opportunity for us to talk to the assembled crowd there about the time capsule and acknowledge its burial. The 4th of July obviously has so many things happening all over the country. Commissioners, members of Congress, are going to be spread throughout the nation, as they should be that day. So we expect that the burial ceremony will be much smaller, and maybe a media event with some others, but all that again is still to be determined. So, but July 2 will be the day that we really celebrate with a large group of people what the time capsule is, what's in it, in those days surrounding July 4th before it goes in the ground.
Great. And then Tom, can you just clarify as well, if there is a special convening of Congress that is separate from the time capsule display plan?
Yes, a special convening would have no direct relationship to the time capsule. We would hope they would then be able to see the capsule, whatever members are in Philadelphia on July 2, and attend the events surrounding remarks about the time capsule, but there won't be a particular event like a burial or something on July 2. So the special convening really will be its own event and not directly tied to the time capsule in any tangible way.
Great, thank you. Jacob, this is a good question for you. How did you consider environmental factors, things like climate change, just environmental conditions at the burial site in your scientific planning?
Independence Hall is about 30 feet above sea level. So I think we should be good for 250 years. So the the design of our outer shell is, because we're underground, we do get rains and things like that, and it is possible that the burial area could get flooded with water, and our design is accounting for that. So it shouldn't see water even if if we get torrential rains or anything like that would flood the burial site. It should be 100% sealed just with that outer shell because of that. The inner shell is also sealed. I should have specified that all the levels are sealed, are 100% sealed. So even if water does happen to get in that outermost shell, like if in 200 years the outermost shell fails, our inner shell is still sealed. So we're using multiple levels of protection, which is how we're planning to survive.
Thank you.
Great science experiments. Take the cup in a full, tub and have kids push it down into the tub and see how the air inside is unaffected by the water. It's just a quick way to understand how the bell jar functions. Again, if there's anything climate related that happens around Philadelphia that obviously would impact the Liberty Bell, it would impact Independence Hall, the time capsule will be, should it ever need to be relocated, it'll be part of, that all of the precious elements that make up that site for sure.
Great. The next question is, are you able to speak to the objects that will be included from the various branches of government? Have they been selected? Rosie, do you want to start just by explaining the Commission's relationship and role to represent all three branches? And then Tom, if you want to add in on more specifics for those objects.
Yeah, absolutely. So as mentioned in our legislation, we represent all three branches of government. We're the only national organization charged by Congress to lead the planning of the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So I am at the discretion of the president. I was appointed by President Biden in July of 2022 and been working very, very closely with the administration to date. It was my recommendation for the executive order that became Task Force 250 almost a year ago when the president issued that executive order to mobilize all the federal agencies to begin their own planning efforts for the 250th. Our enabling legislation also includes a number of federal agencies as ex officio members, but it didn't include all the federal agencies. So it did include some of the larger ones, the Department of the Interior, Department of State, Department of Defense, now Department of War, among others, but it didn't include NASA, it didn't include Treasury, it didn't include Commerce. So thankfully, we've been working very, very closely with Task Force 250 to make sure that, again, all federal agencies are part of this planning effort. And in addition to that, as was mentioned, the Supreme Court is also part of our commission. In fact, Justice Anthony Kennedy has been our liaison, and we've been working very closely with him in his office, where they actually hosted our commission meeting last September 9th. Where we had the privilege of having Leader Thune and Speaker Johnson as our keynote speakers, along with our Congressional Caucus members together at the Supreme Court, which is very, very rare. And we were, again, very honored to have that relationship with them. I have had many discussions already with Justice Kennedy about their involvement with our commission, including potential contributions to the time capsule. Lots of great paper options that are being considered as we speak. And again, just to have the privilege of even engaging these conversations at this level. Look, this is I can say once in a lifetime for me and Tom and maybe others. It's twice in a lifetime to be able to live through not just the bicentennial, but the semi-quincentennial. But again, we see this as much about the future as it is the past. And so knowing that my kids, our generations to come, will be able to look back and know that we were very, very deliberate and thoughtful about how these moments and this movement was going to be represented in the time capsule itself. I think it's an embarrassment of riches of all the options to think about and to choose from. But thankfully, Congress was very, very smart in thinking about how this commission was formed, what the composition of the commission was supposed to look like, and including this bipartisan approach, which has been very, very effective for our commission in having these collective discussions. And again, since I've been chair 3.5 years ago, there's been no political ideology at all in any of our conversations, any of our planning efforts, and it's worked. It's actually worked, and it's obviously resonating with the American public as well. So we hope and anticipate that process will continue moving forward as we come to this final selection process over the months ahead.
We've talked, Emily, about the congressional convening. And so one of the things we've talked about, most of our executive branch, legislative branch, these ideas are aspirational right now. But let's just say they pass legislation for a July 2 special convening. To get an archival copy of that legislation signed by congressional leadership to put in the time capsule, that would be great. It would be singularly unique, one of a kind, related to, July 2. So those are the types of things that we're looking for from those branches of government.
Great, thank you so much. Rosie, I will have you answer this one. So can you talk about just generally the relationship with Freedom 250 and if they will have any, say, or just if they have anything to do with this time capsule? Is this being led by America 250 independently? And just overall, any thoughts on that? Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. Yes, I think the best way to think about Freedom 250 is, so just as America 250 has kind of two complementary areas, we are the America 250 kind of .gov, if you will, which is the commission, the policy, the planning areas, et cetera. Then we have America250.org, which is basically the operational arm. That's where our procurement, our development is handled and implemented through the .org side. That's the 501c3 side. So I think the best way to think about Freedom 250 is there's Task Force 250, which is, again, the government side, the federal agencies led within the Domestic Policy Council. And then Freedom 250 is the financing arm, the fundraising arm, the supporting the executive branch's initiatives. So we haven't coordinated on the time capsule with Freedom 250. We certainly have talked to Task Force 250 about all of our planning efforts. In fact, they are regular participants in our commission meetings and intermittent meetings where we are kind of planning and coordinating together. So they've been great partners along the way. But we see the time capsule as mandated by Congress as this ability to represent all three branches of government equally. And so we will continue down that path of working with our commission members and Task Force 250 to get their feedback as well.
Great. And Rosie, you went off camera, I think, accidentally, if you want to come back. But I just put a call out to any final questions as we reach the last few minutes. I think if each of you three would like to just give any remarks about, how long you've been working on both the commission and this project and what it's like to be in the last few months as we march toward July 4th and what both this capsule burial and culmination and moment means to you.
Well, I guess I'll start and then pass to Jacob. One of the things that I've said from the beginning, having started working on this when I was a senior executive with the National Park Service, is the way that this commemoration has brought together the federal agencies. I'm so proud to still be involved and still working with the ex officios. Prior to this commemoration, I had only worked with Smithsonian, Archives, Library of Congress, and so on a very limited basis. And now we have friends across the spectrum. Because we've all been working on this commemoration together, and now add, Jacob and Jay and the team at NIST, and it just continues to grow. And these folks that are public servants out there working through their federal agencies to see this commemoration through. It's part of what makes me proud to be an American, right? That the way that our federal government works together, hand in glove, on these things like this. So honestly, that's really something in this project that comes through, and actually in all of our projects, is how we are hand in glove. We have an ex officio call this afternoon, and there's so many federal agencies who aren't congressional ex officios that say, "Can I come to the meeting?" I'm like, absolutely, yes, yes, yes. So to see our federal government working together like that on something like this, it just inspires me every day, and very proud to be a part of it, and anxious to see this project through to completion.
Jacob?
Yeah, so I've actually only been on the project less than a year. Yeah, so as Tom mentioned, our head design engineer, Jay, has done a lot of the work on designing and doing all the engineering drawings that you saw in the presentation. But it's been, I've really enjoyed the project. I mean, as an engineer, to come to us with a problem, I mean, this is typical American to me, right? You come to with a huge challenge and then we overcome it. And that's, to me, it is exciting, and it's great to be part of this project. And it's a great team. It's been a great team to work with. And the stuff just gets done, so it's been a lot of fun.
When I look at Tom and Jacob, I think there are two amazing examples of committed public servants. I literally plucked Tom after his service, 35 years at the National Park Service, when he was our ex officio representative from Interior. And literally the second he left is when I approached him about coming on board as a consultant with us, and never looked back, right, Tom? No retirement for him. But I will say, for me, again, as someone who remembers the bicentennial as almost an 11-year-old girl, this is really this is the American dream. I'm living the American dream, and to come full circle like this is really, again, such an honor. I think we've been very blessed, again, to have the right composition of commission members where we are today. Again, I think Congress was very thoughtful about how they wrote this legislation that included the time capsule and included the composition of the commission, including our 8 members of Congress, standing members of Congress, who've been fantastic. For me personally, I mean, I guess technically this might be my 5th administration, if you count my time on the Treasury Federal Reserve Transition Team in the fall of 2008 at the height of the financial crisis, and then my 8 years as Treasurer of the United States, and then my time here as a commissioner. Whew, it's a lot. But I would say, I came from the private sector before I joined the administration, and I would do it all over again. If it was the fall of 2008 at the height of the financial crisis, I would do it all over again. And so to have this kind of culmination of this career path, and with this honor to serve my country in this way, there are really no words for it. I am the biggest patriot out there for someone who is the daughter of immigrants, who was raised by a single mother, raised all 9 of us in this great country, sent all 9 of us off to college, and to see my kids, thrive as they are thriving today. I've never been more proud to be an American. And people ask me all the time, how do you know you're going to be successful in 2026? And my answer is the same. 2 things. I would say, one is I want as many Americans as possible to feel like this is the land of opportunity all over again. And hopefully our programming makes people feel that way. And the second I would say is you can still love your country and want it to be more perfect, exactly as our founding fathers envisioned. And so you will see in our programming, there is a strong sense of patriotism, but there's also a strong sense of exploration and really, thinking about who we are as a country and where we want to go. And again, this is as much about the future as it is the past. But based on this 8-year journey on this commission and where we are today, I could not be happier with what we've done, and especially where we're going. So stay tuned. A lot more to come around the corner.
Thank you so much, everyone. With that, we can wrap. And again, our team is here for any other email follow-up questions or anything you need for reporting. Thank you so much.
Thank you again.